Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Real Steel, where we talk all things Pittsburgh Steelers. No BS, just the real steel. I am one of your hosts, Jeff, and I am joined by my co-host, the new solo podcaster, I guess you could say, Polt. Thanks for picking up the slack last week while I was traveling for work, but we're back in the studio now, and we're back to talk about a game that I don't really want to talk about. I don't know about you, but Steelers lose 24 to 19 against the Browns on Thursday Night Football, and I've tried to tune it out a little bit. I'm kind of trying to move past this one. Doesn't feel like a good game. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, on a bit of a lighthearted note, it was pretty funny, going and editing the the episode last week, and just halfway through, you just are gone, and you're nowhere to be found, and it literally says Jeff left the conversation, and that was it. But don't worry, I was in there, and I'm gonna have to make some blooper clips for us for TikTok because it's pretty funny watching me just talk to myself. So you're back in your studio, I'm not in mine, but we'll make it work. The game though itself. Man, yeah, I've tried to not think about it either. So I think this probably is going to be a pretty quick episode talking about how lackluster of a performance that was. But hey, you have those, and actually yesterday being Sunday, made me feel even better about our game on Thursday. So that's always good.
Yeah. Well, I'll just on that last note with the bloopers there. I'll give an honorable maybe jag off of the week to the Weston Wi-Fi in Lake Las Vegas for
Man,
that mishap there.
yeah, you must not have won anything because that was pretty bad Wi-Fi.
Yeah, and look at you now. You're in this pink room. Is that what it is?
Yeah,
You
oh
go in
yeah, it's
the
entirely
sister's
pink. Shout out to
sister
my
room.
sister.
All
Yeah, it's
right,
it's her room.
love it.
I do gotta say, it is pretty funny because just for all the listeners out there, we recorded that full episode last week with no problem. No
Yeah.
problem at all. We did a full like 48 minutes. So yes, it was a little shorter than what you should have been getting, but we did a full 48 minutes, had no idea. And when I went in the next day to edit it, it just was gone. So sorry about that, but we'll try to be better this week, I guess.
Well, if we get into this game, what I got to at least start off with is I had a hell of a time watching this game. It was, of course, unfortunate circumstances how the game obviously panned out, but
Yeah.
I was at a sports book in Las Vegas for the game and really cool experience. I'd booked a table with some coworkers and a huge wall of TV screens and obviously the Steelers Browns game was kind of front and center with some
Yeah.
hockey games and some other stuff that was going on and you could just walk right down and go to kind of like a bank teller and just go down and place any type of bets and they had a couple digital betting machines and man, I was just sliding in 20s and then placing random bets like left and right. Like it was the funniest freaking thing ever. And of
Yeah.
course, I hit on like the stupidest bets. And I mean, had the Steelers won, it would have been a nice payday. I had bet the Steelers over 20 points. The Steelers to win outright when we were down pretty big. I ran up and got the Steelers like plus 240 to win or 255 and threw like $20 on that. And just, throughout, the whole game, just enjoyed the experience. Just kind of a, a bummer with how things panned out ultimately. Slow game, ugly game, right? I mean, weather certainly played a factor. I think being from Pittsburgh, you can't have that as an excuse, though.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that it's a Thursday night football game sucks, but can't have that as an excuse because it was the same thing for Cleveland. I go back to this whole thing of this. This to me just felt like it was a trap. Felt like it was a trap game. We're supposed to win these games. We're supposed to beat these teams, but we can't. I mean, this season we're 5-0 against winning teams and 3-3 against losing teams. So it's kind of a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, I mean that's a great stat, and that just kind of sums up the Steelers season, and it sums up a lot of what people think, calling it a Tomlin season, right? I mean, we tend to always play down to our opponents and struggle, and I think you and I were really, or tried to be really optimistic going into the game. And I know you kept telling me before the game, we tried to not think that this could be a trap game. We tried to think that this season
Yeah.
was different. And unfortunately, it just wasn't. But I do think we need to bring it back a little bit to the point where this is a divisional game, and it was a divisional game, and divisional games can mean anything, right? I mean, you know these teams so well, and it doesn't matter what the records are. When teams in the same division get on the field, anything can happen. And I think we need to try to keep that in mind. It's really hard to do, especially against a Browns team that historically is bad and we don't like. But I think this is where we got spoiled. Big Ben's career record versus the Browns in Cleveland was 12-2-1.
Hmm.
Since he retired, we are 0-3 in Cleveland.
Yeah,
And so I think we just went those 15 years of just being so dominant over them. It's really hard for us to swallow that we're struggling. And again, we're an 8-3 or 8-2 football team going into that game. They were 2-8. We should have won that game, but it is a division game, and those are always going to be hard.
for sure. I mean, I don't know how much we want to necessarily break down this game. What I'll say at least to start is, missed field goal on the opening drive, a 58-yarder. That was a bummer to see that ultimately happen. I like that we took the chance to go for it. I do think Boswell missing that kick played into some of Tomlin's decisions later in the game, which was
Yeah.
unfortunate. And again, I know weather played a role here, and it was windy and snowy, and probably couldn't get a good foothold, but that kind of sucked. We go into the half down 10-3, but the Steelers rallied a little bit. I mean, we were winning in
Yeah.
the fourth quarter, 19-18, and had a play where we picked off Jameis Winston. We had the ball with 4 minutes and 22 seconds left, and simply had a three and out, and um, couldn't kill the clock. And ultimately, then the Browns came down and scored. And again, they gave us a minute and change left on the clock to try and do something, but couldn't do anything there. What I go to here is, on paper, the Steelers kind of won this game. We had more yards than the Browns did, 368 to 304. Passing, we had about 30 more yards. Rushing, we had about 40 more yards. We won the turnover battle, and we outpossessed the Cleveland Browns throughout this game. What kills me, I think that the biggest thing that gets me, and where I think we lost the game was the Browns were 1 for 10 on third downs,
Yeah.
which is a great stat for the Steelers, but they were 4 for 4 on fourth down completions. So that to me is where we lost this game. That's where things fell apart, was on the fourth down conversions. We just could not stop them. And to make matters worse, we were 1 for 3 on our fourth down conversions.
Yeah.
So that really is kind of, aside from everything that's written here on the team stats, those are the ones that essentially, I think change the outcome of this game.
Well, and on the flip side, we were 7 of 16 on third downs. So, I mean, we actually converted at a pretty high rate on third downs, but when we got into those fourth downs, which is definitely the weather played a factor there. I think if it's a clean game, not windy, not snowing, not wet, that they would have went for another long field goal with Boswell later in the game. But I do think I mean, he missed bad. That was the worst I think I might have ever seen Boswell miss on a field goal. Granted, it was 58 yards, but that was early in the game, and it only got worse, the conditions from there
Mhm.
on. So I do think that played a large part. I mean, you saw Cleveland was really hesitant to kick extra points, let alone field goals, especially in the second half. So I can't really blame them for changing their entire philosophy when it comes to the kicking game, just because the conditions were so bad. It was this, they're calling it the snow globe game. I mean, you just couldn't see the field at bits of the game. But yeah, I agree with you. On paper, I guess we did dominate, or not dominate, but we won. I
Right.
Sitting there, I didn't feel that way though. I don't know about you. Like sitting there, I did not think that we won almost every statistical category.
No, I didn't. I mean, it was the second half where things really flipped, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, the second half, we had, we had the three turnovers in that second half, two fumbles, and an interception, and we put, two touchdowns on the board. We scored all our points except for three in the second half. So, you know, uh, when that started, it felt like things were kind of gonna come and I guess come into fruition, right?
Yeah.
Again, I go back to being up 19-18 with a good amount of time left on the field and getting the ball back with 4 minutes. We talked about how earlier in the season we did a pretty good job of being able to run out the clock, and kill the rest of the game. Weren't able to do that here, and had we been able to do that, we would have won this game 19-18, and I wouldn't have cared that it was a close game. I wouldn't have cared, whatever happened, as long as we come out of Cleveland alive. But yeah, it's just it's a tough one to stomach, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
I don't think Cleveland like really, really handed it to us. I don't think they showed us that they're significantly that
Oh
much of a
yeah.
better team. But we did talk about some of these things that, Cleveland was going to do in terms of, them having a new roster and them being able to, pull out different things with, just the Steelers coming to town and having our number since Ben retired. So, yeah, I don't really know what else more I have to say about it. I'm kind of just trying to move past it. But at the end of the day, right? We know this is a divisional game, like you said. We kind of said we would split some of these games. I do think mid-season we came back and said we'd beat the Browns in both games because
Yeah,
they
we did.
suck. Um, but nonetheless, kind of is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I actually had an interesting reaction to you when you said when they handed it to us. I was thinking you were saying they tried to give us the game because I really do think they tried to give us the game, right? They did
Mm.
everything they possibly could to try to lose this game with the three turnovers, the two fumbles, the interception at the end there. Like you said, the 1 for 10 on third down. I just think they tried to lose the game and we didn't have the or we didn't, grasp that opportunity and take it by the horns and win the game, which is really unfortunate. But it's that last drive I think is really sums up the whole game for us. I guess the second to last drive when we had the interception on our own 24, and I mean that was a terrible pass by Jameis Winston. He finally gave us one
Yeah.
back, the one that we've been waiting for all game, right? We all know that Jameis Winston can do that, and he finally did it. And just to go, I mean, the first two plays of the drive weren't bad. Two 3 yard runs by Najee Harris. I think Justin Fields was on the field for the second one. And then they call their first timeout with 3.5 minutes left, and we have a 3rd and 4. Like, I mean, that's a third and manageable that you should be able to get. But then there's just the decision making to keep Justin Fields on the field. That's fine. I'm okay with that decision. But then to have him throw a deep ball to George Pickens, a one-on-one contested catch, I don't know if that's what I would have ran on 3rd and 4 to close out the game with Justin Fields on the field. Maybe if it's Russell Wilson, who has shown to be really good on the deep ball, especially to George Pickens. But I don't really think Fields and him connected very well early in the season on those deep passes. So to have him on the field for a long pass, I like the aggressiveness. I do like that, but not in that scenario. And maybe I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth because I'm sure earlier in the season I would have said I liked that, but in that scenario, in that game, it didn't make sense, and that really obviously they scored after that. So
Yeah. I mean, you play the game of had that worked out, it would have seemed like it was the greatest call ever,
right,
right? But I do agree with you. I mean, I there were some things I liked. I liked that we saw Justin Fields a lot more often. I like short yardage, bring in Justin Fields. I like the fact that he was able to use his legs. Now, there were some stupid calls where it was extremely, extremely predictable.
yep.
And it's funny, like my dad had called me afterwards and he was like, why do we run it every single 1st and 10, every single one? And maybe we didn't, but it
Well,
really
no, no.
seemed like we did.
Here we go. This is Kevin Adams. He went it back and logged it, and he said that other than the end of the first half and the final Hail Mary, we ran the ball 17 of 21 times on first down. That's 81% of the time.
There you go. I mean, just because it's, we had 250 yards through the air. I mean, the weather was a factor, but we can play in it, and we could have thrown the ball. Heck, we have seen what has worked with some of these. I don't even know if they're considered RPOs or if they're just play actions or whatever they might be, but
Yeah.
they work with Russell Wilson on first down. And you pick up 6 yards, and then you have a 2nd and 4. You can take that deep shot, and then you have a 3rd and 4 if you miss it, whatever it might be. That was like extremely frustrating was watching that constant running on first downs. We talk about how it's like the 2nd and longs where we're always running, or we talk about the
Yep.
freaking pitch plays to Najee, which are still happening and don't work. But the runs on first down, I think, was the, yeah, kind of kryptonite here. I
Definitely.
do want to go back to what you said with the Justin Fields pass on 3rd and 4 from our own 30. Um, I do agree that I don't think that was the right call. I think what unfortunately happened afterwards is Corliss Waitman had his first punt of the game and he punted for 15 yards and totally just botched the hell out of that punt.
Yeah.
Um, Gave the Browns field position on our own half of the field, um, down 1 point. So at that moment, it was like, well, shit, the game's kind of right there.
Yeah,
Outside,
but I agree. I completely agree. And that obviously put our defense in a really bad situation. But then at the same time, if you go through that drive, we had numerous opportunities to get off the field, right? And this goes into one of the worst,
got him to
like,
fourth down twice.
got him to fourth down twice, fourth down once. but they had the opportunity to take that
No,
penalty.
twice. 4th and 3. Okay, 4th and 1. Yeah, you're right. The penalty.
Yeah, the penalty. They had the opportunity to, put them back 10 yards and do a third and 13 from the 38. Decided to decline the penalty and then gave up a 4th and 3, a 5-yard pass to Jerry Jeudy. I mean, they had the opportunity to get off the field. Multiple third downs. I don't know. It was a tough one. The defense still could have stopped the game, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like the
Yeah.
Corliss Waitman, the decision on third down to throw the deep ball with Fields, the Corliss Waitman punt, both put us in a horrible spot. But at the end of the day, we always talk about how this is the highest paid defense, and a lot of times we had to win through them, and they had their opportunity and just fell short.
Yeah, but again, I don't think the defense played a shit game this game. I think, they did an okay job holding the Browns to 24 points, and we should be able to win games scoring more than 24 points. So,
Yeah, just to go back to your comment about running the ball and that third and fourth, I guess that third down play. The other reason why I think I it was a bad idea to put Fields on the field or to run that play with Fields is Russell Wilson's his stats were actually unbelievable on third and fourth down in that game. He was 12 of 13 for 203 yards and a touchdown. I mean, he was making plays on third and fourth down. And so if you're going to put Fields on there, I think you go with the predictable route and you run the ball. But if you're going to throw the ball, you put a guy that you have faith in throwing or a lot more faith, at least that's what they've shown this year, throwing the ball, and somebody that succeeded in the elements throughout that game. I think that was Justin Fields' only throw. And I don't know. I mean, I probably would have ran the ball to begin with, but I'm okay passing the ball, but I think you have to have your starting quarterback on the field. So that's the last thing I'll say about that. I just thought it was interesting. Russell Wilson was really good on those money downs.
yeah, I know we glazed over it quickly, but how do you feel aside from that play about Justin Fields coming into the game and what he was able to do?
I thought he was awesome. I mean, you talked about it. Most of our offense came in the second half. Our offense was pretty abysmal in the first half.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a 9-play, 39-yard drive with the missed field goal, a 7-play, 41-yard drive where we didn't get it on downs, 10-play, 59-yard drive with a field goal, 2 for -2 because we had a fumble, and then a 4 for 11 at the end of the half. I mean, we moved the ball, but we would stop. Once we got to like the 40-yard line of the Browns, we would always stutter and stop and end up having to do something with it. Go for it on fourth, kick at the long field goal, whatever the case may be. I just didn't think they had much juice in the first half. But Justin Fields, to bring it back to your question, I think he completely changed the game for us. I think it was a 30-yard run in the second half, really set us up and got us moving, and at least got the offense jump started. So I thought Justin Fields played a really good game and really did play a big role in our offense.
Yeah, I will say I think that's probably, and again, aside from that one play call, that 3rd and 4, um, I think that was the best thing that Arthur Smith did in this game.
Agreed.
Outside of that, don't think he did a lot, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But don't think he did a lot of good. But yeah, I think that's kind of all I have to say there. I agree with the Justin Fields stuff. What do you is there anyone you want to highlight? Anyone you kind of want to go to? I mean, I can hand out awards whenever you're ready. I kind of want to get through it and get over this freaking Browns game and move on to next week, you know?
I mean, yeah. You just said you had a bunch to talk about with Arthur Smith. What are your comments on Arthur Smith?
Well, I mean, okay, listen.
Oh, I mean, if unless you want to wait for that, sorry.
No, no. I mean, hey, I can go in. I can go in right now. It's really just a couple things. I mean, and we already talked about the play calling with the 1st and 10s,
Yeah,
and those runs. The one play that gets me the most is a 2-point conversion where you
yep,
run a fade and throw it to your third string wide receiver, flex, running back, flex, whatever player you want to call Cordero Patterson. Why in the hell are you throwing a fade route to Cordell Patterson on a 2-point conversion when you have George Pickens, when you have Darnell Washington? Where the hell was Mike Williams? Mike Williams was not targeted at all in this game. I don't know how many snaps he played. You might have that, but we didn't see Mike Williams at all. And so that alone, why are you going to trade for a guy if you're not going to use him? If you're going to play Van Jefferson over him, if you're going to play Cordell Patterson on a 2-point conversion play and have him line up as a wideout over Mike Williams, don't know why you're doing that. So I'm just going to jump right into it. You can give me your jag off of the week later, but my jag off is going to Arthur Smith just because I don't think he did a really good job play calling this game. Steelers scored 19 points. Look at it. Look how much production we had in terms of our yardage, and particularly in the second half. got Justin Fields in, did a lot of interesting stuff, nothing to show for it. So that's kind of what gets me. And Arthur Smith is getting my first Jagoff of the year to him.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's totally deserved. If you look at it, he called a lot of the same run plays, and against a good defense like this, I mean, their front is really good. You can't be predictable like that, and that's not even mentioning the all the runs on first down like we talked about earlier. It just was so predictable that that 2-point conversion was mind-boggling to me. I just didn't understand that one at all. Um, yeah, I just didn't really get the game plan here. I mean, you can blame him, you can blame Tomlin. The fourth down conversions were horrible. They
Hmm.
ran like the same play 4 times or 3 times on all of them. They were
Yeah.
late deciding if they were going for it on fourth. That was the one that screwed up the second drive of the game, our first fourth down. They had two of the starting linemen running off the field thinking they were going to special teams units, and they're not on the unit, and they had to run them back on. They didn't get out of the huddle till like 9 seconds left. Had a motion with 2 seconds left. It's just like they all seem disorganized. And I don't know if that's on Arthur Smith, if that's on Mike Tomlin. I think it's probably a little bit of both. But they got to make their minds up. You can't be making decisions with 15 seconds left on the play clock. You just can't do that. And I completely agree that I think he's very deserving of a jag-off. I just don't think he called a right game. I think Russell Wilson and Justin Fields both kind of bailed him out at times during this game. So
100%.
I think that's for real. Going back to your Mike Williams comment, he played 19 snaps, which is 28%. But here's the big kicker. He's played 53 snaps in 3 games, and 33 of those were pass plays. But he has 1 target in total, and that was a touchdown against Washington when he
Yeah.
wasn't even supposed to be on the field.
What the hell is up with that?
I,
I
I,
don't
I
know.
don't get it. I don't get it. I'm hoping. I mean, to your point, like, where's he on that 2-point conversion? He's a big body. He's a
That's what I'm saying.
contested catch kind of guy. Where was he? Why do you have Cordero Patterson in there? I have no idea. Like you said, they traded for him. They need to start using him. They could use him. I mean, Van Jefferson had to play a lot of snaps again. I don't get it. I hope that maybe this mini bye will give him more time to get acclimated to the offense, but he's a veteran. You can't tell me he's not ready to play. He's seen multiple offenses in his career. I'm sure he could go out there and run routes if you need him to. So I don't know what it is, but they got to figure it out.
100%. Yep. I would love to see Mike Williams get fully integrated into this team because, man, when he caught that touchdown against the Commanders, that was something special. And he can be used in that way. And clearly there's a need for it on the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we'll see what we can cook up in this little mini bye.
Yeah. Got anything else about the offense?
No. Trash.
Yeah, I mean Russ's stat line is actually 21 for 28, 270 yards and one
Yeah.
TD. It's not bad. I just didn't think he played as well as that during the game, but his stat line actually looks pretty good. I just thought it was stale until Justin Fields went on that 30-yard run.
Yeah. 120 yards on the ground, too. Like, we really used Najee and Jalen as kind of a 1-2 punch. Couple of them had, they had kind of a couple breakout plays, but nothing was noteworthy in terms of cracking a huge run. I think Jalen actually probably looked a little bit better than Najee did back
He
there.
did.
His stats show that too with the touchdown and less carries for more yards. 15-yard was his long run versus Najee's 11. So, yeah, that was worth noting too. But outside of that, I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about the Calvin Austin play and we kind of this I feel like is the first game where we've utilized Pat Fryermuth a little bit more than we have Darnell Washington in the past couple of games,
Yeah.
which I think is how it should be. But again, Russell Wilson did a pretty good job overall. He spread the ball around. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven different guys with targets. All more than two catches, and all more than 2 catches too. So spreads the ball around pretty well, but again, couldn't get it done.
Yeah, I guess my last comment is I just remembered this. I saw this online and I think it's pretty true. Connor Hayward played 14 snaps and he seems to be playing a decent number of snaps, but every time he's on the field they run the ball. And he's getting, I mean, on the field's long run, he did make a good block and block 2 guys to spring him. But it seems like he's always on the field when they run, so that's predictability. And he's not really valuable. So why are we playing him? We have Darnell Washington, we have Pat Fryermuth. Just let those 2 guys play. I
I
just,
agree.
I mean, Mikael Pruitt played almost half the snaps, which is pretty crazy. So we had a lot of 3 tight end sets. It looks like.
Yeah, I'll say 2 other things now that we're talking about it. I would love to see us do a tush push on
Yeah,
a really short yardage We did
Bring
it
in
once
Fields
this
and do
season.
it.
We bring in Fields and do it 100%. Put Darnell Washington right behind Justin Fields, snap it right under the center, and just have him go push him. We need to be doing that. Also, the other thing, I have no stats to back this up. You might, but it seemed like our offensive line did not have a very good
Terrible.
game this game. Um, and it's interesting because our offensive line, I feel like, is either pretty good or not very good. Like they haven't found that common ground throughout the whole season where we're, playing consistently, right? It's like
Yeah.
you either talk about how bad Broderick Jones is, or that he has, no demerits, or how well of a game Zach Frazier and Mason McCormick play, or, you know, how bad Dan Moore F's up. Like it seems like there's always one thing. And either up or down, and there hasn't really been a good amount of consistency. We either have holistically good games as an offensive line or just not good games as an offensive line.
Yeah, and they're obviously not playing well. Listen to this stat. Since week 7, we've converted just 50% of our short yardage situations. So third and fourth down with 1 or 2 yards to go. That's the worst mark in the league. I mean, the offensive line was blown up the entire game. And
Yeah, they were.
obviously, it looked like preseason Russ. He was just running for his life, and that's why he struggled so much in the first. I'm also seeing
Took
this.
4 sacks too.
Right, exactly, because the line was just, they couldn't get open for the run game. They couldn't pass block. It was a bad game. I'm just seeing this picture again. I forgot about this too. How could we not mention the Hail Mary attempt that we had? No, nobody even went for the ball. I
Yeah.
mean, there was 5 Browns going for the ball, but not a single Steeler. That's just really frustrating too. But I think that's all I have on the offense.
Well, I'll let you lead in on defense too because I don't have too much to say there.
Yeah, I thought the defense, I mean, they didn't play a horrible game, but I thought I didn't think they played their best game either. Obviously, the 3 turnovers is huge, and they continue to do that. But they keep struggling. It felt like the defensive line got blown up all game. I know the stats might not back that up, but I felt like Nick Chubb had some running lanes. I know his longest was only a 7 yard run, so maybe we did slow him down. But I thought Jameis had way too much time,
Yeah.
and I think the stats back that up. We had 1 sack, and we only had
Yep.
2, 4, 6 QB hits the entire game, which I know QB hits isn't a pressure stat, but I mean that means we're around the quarterback, and it just felt like Jameis had way too much time, which allowed him to pick apart our secondary. And I did not feel that good about the defense in that game, especially in key moments. Right, you talked about the 4 for 4 on fourth down for the Browns. The end of the game there, we talked about we had a fourth down, we had 2 or 3 third downs to get off the field. I don't know what the defense was doing, and they seemed kind of out of sorts there, especially towards the end.
Yeah. One sack, like you mentioned, I think sums that up, right? Like the fact that we're not able to do what the Steelers traditionally do best is painful. I saw a stat that said the Steelers are on pace for 38 sacks by the end of the year, and that would be the lowest since 2016.
Yep, we only have 25.
Yeah. Um, that'd be a good question. Who ends up with more, the defense sacks or Chris Boswell field goals?
Honestly, Boswell field goals probably,
Yeah.
which is crazy to
Um,
say. I mean, the crazy thing is though, if you look at it, Nick Herbig had the third highest pass rush win rate at edge in Week 12. I mean, so he was getting after the quarterback. He just, I, I don't know. He had no help on the other side, and that leads me. I'll give you my jag off of the week this week. I'm giving it to T.J. Watt.
hmm.
T.J. Watt was nowhere to be found. Absolutely nowhere to be found. Was a complete. He did nothing. I think he played a huge amount of snaps, and he did nothing for this game. Let's see. Yeah, he played 95% of the snaps,
He had
55.
that one big tackle for loss that was pretty good, pretty dope. But still, I
Right.
get
I mean, but he
that's
played
expected,
he
right?
played all but 3 snaps and only had that one big play. He had 4 total tackles, like you said, that one tackle for loss. 3 of them were assists. One was a solo. Yeah, I mean that's big, but what we expect out of T.J. Watt, and maybe it's expecting too much, but we're expecting game-wrecking plays and pressure on the quarterback. And it looks like he had some one-on-one opportunities. He did get chipped a lot, like he always does, but he didn't even record a pressure in this game for the 6th time in his career, and only the 2nd time since 2019. He just was a non-factor, and I don't think this team's good enough for him to not be, making plays defensively. So I don't know if they need Alex Highsmith back to get him a rest. Him playing 55 of the 58 snaps seems kind of crazy.
Hmm.
Um, So maybe they need that Alex Highsmith back. But Preston Smith only played 17 snaps. Why don't they
Sure.
spell him more? So I don't know. I was really disappointed. Maybe I also think, there was that one week when TJ had his big week a couple weeks ago. He was moving around the formation, not just staying on that left hand side. He was
Right.
only on the left hand side in this game going against their best tackle. They had a third string right tackle or left tackle, I guess, whatever side it was. Why did they not move him over there and give him some opportunities against that guy? I just don't get why they're using him the way they're using him, and he's just not showing up the way we expect. He is the odds-on favorite by a lot to still win Defensive Player of the Year, which seems really weird because I don't think he's had that kind of season, or it's been one of his worst seasons in the last couple of years, which
Maybe
is
they
saying
know
a
they
lot.
messed up
Maybe,
last
but
year.
yeah, TJ just deserves. To me, he gets my jag off.
That's quite an interesting pick. I think it's a good one, right? Given kind of the expectations that we have, and like you said, we hold him in this light to to make these game changing plays. And I hate to say it because I really cannot stand this football individual, but Myles Garrett really showed up TJ Watt in this game. And traditionally, the Steelers usually like keep Myles Garrett from making too much noise in a game.
Yeah,
I feel like that normally is what happens, and I feel like a few years ago, or maybe it was last year, T.J. Watt had like 4 sacks against the Browns. And TJ usually comes ready to play against the Cleveland Browns, and the fact that we didn't have that was disappointing. So,
yeah.
yeah, I think that's a very fair jagoff.
Dan Moore was on skates. It was pretty bad. 3 sacks in the first half is not good. So yeah,
Yeah, you want to do a balls?
yeah. Let's do it.
Okay.
You want to go?
I'm
You want me to go?
I can go. I'm giving a Pulp balls because I, in this loss, it's tough for me to find the good. I mean, the good is we're still first in the division.
Yeah,
We're 8-3. Um, kind of assumed a game like this would happen. Get it out of your system. Go into a mini bye, longer rest period. So it's fine. I'm over it. But I'm not giving anyone on this team a balls of steel. I'm gonna give my balls of steel to the weather.
oh
Um,
my gosh.
I gotta say, if I was not a Steelers fan, probably would have been a fun game to watch. Probably would have been a pretty damn cool game to watch because who doesn't love a good snow game?
Yeah,
Um, that was the conditions, like you said earlier, where there were moments where like you couldn't see anything, and you gotta love when there's the shovels out
oh
there
yeah,
on the field. I will say I don't like the CGI stuff for whatever it is that they do it, like where they make everything go holographic.
yeah.
Um, it is what it is, but yeah, I'm gonna give my balls of steel to the weather. I
Do
thought
you,
that snow was pretty cool.
Speaking of the shovels, do you ever remember them shoveling the opposite side of the field while the
No,
play's going on? I
no,
don't think I
never.
ever remember that, but they did that, which I thought was pretty interesting. So by the
Yeah,
time you got to that side of the field, it was clear, which actually
yeah.
was a cool idea. That's
What
a,
happens if like someone makes a game
well, that's
changing play and you're like running down the field, you know?
could you imagine the guy shoveling trips and falls and George Pickens is running near him? Oh, he's definitely stepping on him on purpose.
Jesus, throwing a punch for sure.
So that's an interesting balls of steel. I'm actually going to give mine to a Steeler. I thought he really stepped up and obviously made a big play there. I'm giving mine to Calvin Austin. I think this
Wow.
is like the second time I'm
Third
giving
one?
it to him,
Might be
maybe
third.
third. 3 catches on 3 targets for 78 yards and a touchdown. But he had that big touchdown. Well, actually, he had 2 big catches. He had the deep catch in the first half that should have been a touchdown if Russ didn't underthrow him, but
Hmm.
whatever. He caught it. Great play, 46 yards. And then he had the deep touchdown pass, which was, how long was that? That was a 23-yard pass over the middle. Why I think I'm giving it to him is not just because of the stats, but it's the way he played. We're talking about Mike Williams not playing. Calvin Austin was the guy with the second most snaps at wide receiver. He played 40 snaps or 58%. That's like 22 less than George Pickens, but he was number two. And that catch over the middle, he's a small guy, and he
Yeah, he
made a
is.
really, really big play there. A play that Mike Williams probably should be making because of his bigger build. I just think Calvin Austin's really coming into his own as a receiver, not just a returner. And I thought he was one of the few bright spots in this game. So he's going to get my balls of steel.
He's a hell of a honestly of a slot receiver.
He is.
We just we should use him there and you know keep your George Pickens and your Mike Williams as your 1 and 2 and Pat
Yeah.
Fryermuth as your first tight end and use Calvin Austin out of the slot. But
Yeah.
apparently it's not that easy and Probably why I'm not offensive coordinator of the Pittsburgh Steelers or any football team for that matter. But we can have our gripes, right? We're fans,
Absolutely.
so we're allowed to do that.
So as we move on from this game, though, I'm going to give you some positivity.
Let's
And
hear it.
like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, yesterday being Sunday actually made me feel a little bit better about the Steelers' loss. Right? It's never good, especially when you lose to a two-win team on the road in the division. That's never good. But if you look at the scores from yesterday, you have Washington losing to a three-win Dallas team or a two-win Dallas team. You have Houston losing to Tennessee.
Yep.
Both of those teams were at home and they lost. They lost to them. Bad teams in their division. Kansas City went to Carolina. It took a last-second field goal to beat the Carolina Panthers. I mean, there's a multiple times where these games were closer than they should have been. Minnesota almost loses in Chicago, had to go to overtime. It just yesterday was such a
San Francisco lost.
San
Yep. Yep.
Francisco got their butts kicked. I know they had a lot of injuries, but it really is any given Sunday, and in our case, Thursday as well. And especially when you play those divisional games, you never know what's going to happen. So I think we move on and we keep our head high, and we're 8-3. We're still first in the division. We still have a lot to play for. We just, you got to turn the page quickly because we have a tough one coming up.
Yeah, no, really good point. And by the time, people are listening or watching to this episode, um, already will know the outcome of what the Monday Night Football game is. It's about 15 minutes until kickoff, so we actually don't know what's going to happen there.
Yeah.
But Baltimore Ravens going into a 7-win SoFi Stadium Los Angeles Chargers game, where the Chargers are looking pretty good as of late, and
Yeah.
the Ravens have a couple injuries, right? I mean, they're missing
Roquan Smith and Kyle
Ro-
Hamilton.
exactly, and so this is the Chargers are a completely different team under Harbaugh, and who knows? So I mean, the Ravens I think are only favored by about 2.5 points, and you're right. It's week 12 has been a pretty wacky week in the NFL. So, gosh, that would be sweet, sweet, sweet victory for the Los Angeles Chargers if they could beat the Ravens. Who knows what's going to happen? But that would be cool. So we'll have to wait and see on that
And
one
the
too.
Ravens, the Chargers play a very similar game to us, right? Tough defense, ground and pound. It's very similar, and the Ravens struggled against us with that. So hopefully the Chargers can help us out and get them another loss.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Does that do it to wrap that up and move on to talk a little bit about the
Let's
Bengals?
put it in the past. We're done with it.
All right, put it in the past. So, Pittsburgh Steelers, Cincinnati Bengals, December 1st. Can you believe it's December already? Man,
No.
boot up that Mariah Carey. Let's get that going. Bengals are 4-7, 1-4 at home. Steelers on the road are 4-2. Steelers are opening as 3-point underdogs, which is interesting given that we have four more games that we've won than the Bengals. I think a lot of home field advantage is playing into this. I think it's the fact that it's a divisional game. But here's what I can say on the surface, and I know you're going to provide a lot of stats here. The Bengals put up points. The
Oh
Bengals
yeah.
score touchdowns. We are not going to be able to win this game if we don't score any touchdowns. Um, 24 points is not going to cut it for the Pittsburgh Steelers in this game. Let me just go through really, really quickly and read you some of these Bengals scores that they've put up. They lost last week to the Chargers, 27 points, but they put up 34 the week before, 41 the week before. Then they had 17 and 21, and 17 again, but they put up 41 points, or sorry, 38 points against the Ravens, 34 points against the Panthers, 33 points against the Commanders. So the Bengals put up points, and this is a high-powered offense that we know with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and all these guys. Good running game too that they have with Chase Brown. So, I'm worried about the Bengals being able to put up points and us not. That's my biggest fear going into this game. So I'll be honest, I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about the last 2 weeks. Our biggest concern has been our red zone efficiency and scoring touchdowns. And we didn't necessarily do a good job last week. We obviously did a really bad job the week before when we did score any touchdowns. You're right. This is a team that all they do is score downs versus a team that doesn't score touchdowns at all. So we'll see. I don't know what's going to happen. We hope the defense can really shut them down and maybe slow. I guess you're not going to shut down their offense, but maybe slow them down. I am worried about Jamar Chase and T. Higgins against our secondary. I hope Joey Porter Jr. didn't play a very good game against the Browns, so I'm hoping he can turn that around and the rest of the guys can figure it out. But like you said, they're sixth in the league in scoring, averaging 27 a game. They're first in the league in passing, averaging 262 a game. That's
Wow.
nuts. And then they're 27th rushing the ball. So not like you said, they have some explosive runs, and Chase Brown is a pretty good running back, but nothing to write home about. It's really going to be Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, running the show. We should mention Joe Burrow, if their record was better, would probably be the MVP right now. So got to keep that in mind. We got to really slow him down and get pressure to him to do something. I hope TJ steps up. He usually does against Cincinnati. Defensively, they're 28th, though. They're really bad. They give up 27 points a game. So they're scoring 27, but they're also giving
Yeah.
up 27, which is why their record's so bad. They're 23rd against the pass and 21st against the run. So hopefully we can make some noise offensively. I think the Browns stats were pretty bad before our game last week defensively, but we knew they had good players and a good defense. Cincinnati's the complete opposite. They have a really good coach, defensive coordinator, but they don't have the players to play good defense. So it's probably going to be a shootout, if I had to guess. But the lower the scoring it is, the better I feel.
Yeah, I think that's certainly a valid point. You actually think it's going to be a shootout?
I worry about us scoring, but yeah, I could see this thing going over.
Well, let me give you this. Last year, if my stats are correct, we beat the Bengals twice.
Yes.
And the last time that the Pittsburgh Steelers scored an opening drive touchdown was against the Bengals last year. That was a Mason Rudolph play. And that was on December 23rd, I think. I think that was week.
Yes.
Gosh, I don't even know what week that was. But let me go back to that game because, everyone's worried about the Bengals being a high-powered
Week
offense.
16.
Okay, everyone's worried about the Bengals being a high-powered offense. We certainly are, and were back then. I think we still are now. But Mason Rudolph led the Steelers to win 34-11 against the Bengals in Week 16 of last year. We started off that game 24 to nothing. I remember being in a bar back home in Pittsburgh
Me
watching that
too.
game.
You got to
And
remember though, Jake Browning played that game,
okay, but still,
so
it's
it
the
wasn't the
Bengals.
same old Bengals. So we gotta be careful. But yeah, you're
That's fair.
100% right. 34-11, and then 16-10 was the game in November last year. So
Yeah. So if we can keep a lower scoring game, I think we do have a better opportunity to come out on top, like you said. But who knows? I mean, we haven't really had I would say like the back and forth type scoring games, like we had with Big Ben and some of those like gunslinging games. And I could see an opportunity for this to be one of the first of the season.
yeah,
Um, that's my my heart talking, right? Because who knows if that's actually going to happen or not. But maybe it is. I'm going to go out with my bold prediction and say Russell Wilson throws 3 touchdowns in this game.
wow,
And I think that there's a good chance that could happen because I think we're going to need to,
agreed.
right? It's one thing if, we're going to play a little bit more conservatively because our defense is playing well and we're holding a team to less points. But if the Bengals are putting up points on the board, we're going to have to. So I'm going to go out and say, yeah, Russell Wilson, 3 touchdowns. It's my bold prediction.
Okay, I like that. Like you said, it's going to have to happen to beat this team. So I predicted my score. I think I'm going to go with the Steelers win 27-24. Like you said, we're going to have to score more than 24 points. I think that's exactly what you said. I think we get a field goal better, and that's the difference in the game. So that would hit the over, and probably potentially be your 3 touchdowns from Russell Wilson. So we'll have to see. My bold prediction, though, I'm gonna call out or hope that my call out of a Jagoff this week really gets him going. He tends to always play really, really good against the Bengals, and seems to confuse Joe Burrow. If you remember the last couple of years, he's had some interceptions against him. I'm predicting T.J. Watt's gonna have 2+ sacks and cause a turnover.
All right. I like it.
I think, like I said, we can't win without him making game-breaking plays, and he seems to have a knack to do it against the Bengals. So that's my bold prediction.
Love it. All right. Well, let's hope it happens. Let's get after it. One other thing to mention here. You've used the terminology of a mini bye a lot. Steelers playing Thursday night football coming into this game next Sunday. The Bengals are actually coming off a full bye, so they will be pretty well rested. I think and hope that we're going to have Alex Highsmith back. Don't know about Corey Trice as of yet, but Alex Highsmith, I think signs are pointing towards that. Again, we're recording on Monday, so we haven't heard Tomlin's conference on Tuesday yet, so we don't know the outcome for sure. But if we get Alex Highsmith back too, to the points you brought up earlier about, that defensive front, things can definitely change with now a solid rotation of four.
Yeah,
So something to look forward to, assuming we get him back. And yeah, we'll see where it goes.
let's hope we win this one.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. We appreciate it, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, everyone. Peace.